guys. Tonight we enter the deliciously questionable world of ancient Roman street food. From greasy thermopolia counters to honey-soaked fig cakes eaten in the shadows of marble columns, Roman junk food wasn't just fuel. It was flavor, status, and survival all rolled into one mystery sausage. Before you get comfortable, take a moment to like and subscribe, but only if you genuinely enjoy what I do here. And drop a comment. Where are you tuning in from and what time is it? I love seeing who's joining from around the world. Now dim the lights, maybe turn on a fan for that soft hum, and let's ease into tonight's journey. You're trudging through a sun-baked Roman street in worn-out sandals. Your tunic clings in all the wrong places, and you're nursing the kind of headache that only comes from drinking 5 cups of watered wine and making bad decisions at the bathhouse. You're not in the mood for a formal meal. You won't spit roast a pig or debate olive varieties with your neighbor. No, you need something immediate, greasy, possibly regrettable. Something that won't ask questions and won't mind if you eat it with one hand while shooing pigeons with the other. Enter the thermopolium, Rome's gloriously chaotic street food joint. Think ancient Taco Bell with more marble counters and slightly fewer regulations. The layout is deceptively simple. Stone counters with circular holes carved into them, each holding a dolium, a large earthenware pot filled with whatever was hot, edible, and survived the morning. No menus, no labels, no order, just a bubbling stew of possibility, both literal and gastrointestinal. What's on offer? Fried cheese balls that squeak when you bite them, questionable sausage links that might be pork or might be optimism, a mysterious stew that may contain lentils or may just look like it does, and floating through everything like a ghost you can taste, garum, the Roman fermented fish sauce that was somehow both seasoning and social experiment. Cleanliness? Let's not ask. The chef wears the same tunic he slept in, and his spoon has seen at least 2 civil wars. But the food is hot, salty, and packed with enough calories to get you through another afternoon of not dying in a crowd. Thermopolia were everywhere, especially in Pompeii, where nearly every block had one. Workers, students, wandering poets, and very confused Gaulish tourists all gathered at these counters, trading sesterces for sustenance that was fast, filling, and questionably legal. Sure, it may give you indigestion, but when your choices are cold onion or whatever's bubbling at the corner stall, you follow your gut and hope it forgives you later. You've left the thermopolium with your dignity slightly bruised and a lentil stain forming on your toga. Now you're walking through the forum, and your stomach makes that ominous noise again. You need a snack, not a meal, just something to chew while pretending to listen to a politician rant about wheat subsidies. Enter roasted chickpeas, or as the Romans knew them, cicer aratinum, which sounds fancy but translates to rocks pretending to be food. Vendors sold them in clay bowls or cloth pouches, shouting over each other in a glorious symphony of salesmanship. Hot chickpeas, crunchy chickpeas, chickpeas that may or may not chip your molars. They were roasted over open coals until they reached a consistency somewhere between crisp and gravel. Heavily salted, because salt was Rome's answer to everything, preservation, seasoning, and disguising the taste of regret. And yet, chickpeas were wildly popular. Soldiers munched them on the march, senators snacked between bribes, children chewed them like practice for adulthood. They were cheap, filling, and didn't spoil easily, ideal for tossing into a satchel, a lunchbox, or at someone's head during a gladiator match. There wasn't much variety. No chili lime, no hummus, just a bowl of rock-hard legumes dusted with salt, occasionally served warm, which was somehow considered a luxury. Of course, the Romans swore they were healthy. Chickpeas supposedly promoted virility, digestion, and deep thoughts, which sounds like something a vendor made up, but hey, if it helped move product? Every now and then you'd get a soft one, chewy, mealy, and for a brief moment you'd think, this isn't bad. Then you'd bite the next one and remember that Roman dentistry was still 1,000 years away.
Still, for a handful of coins, you got a snack that traveled well, lasted forever, and gave you something to do during long political speeches. In Rome, that was worth every cracked tooth. Now your stomach wants something different, maybe sweet, maybe soft, maybe less existentially crunchy. You spot a vendor with a tray of golden spheres glistening in the sun. You approach cautiously, because in Rome, sweet things are often deceptive. He hands you one with a wink and says, "Globuli." What are they? Picture deep-fried cheese balls drenched in honey. No, this isn't a Renaissance fair invention. Globuli were a real Roman dessert snack made by mixing ricotta-style cheese with flour, forming them into balls, deep-frying in oil, then soaking them in honey like they'd committed a crime of moderation. They were sweet, savory, and structurally unstable. Bite too fast and hot cheese would launch in the opposite direction. The honey would glue your fingers together, ensuring the rest of your day involved bees, dogs, or awkward hand gestures at passing senators. But make no mistake, globally were a hit. The recipe appears in Apicius, the closest thing Romans had to a cookbook, and they were considered a treat suitable for dinner parties, temple festivals, and impressing anyone you wanted to seduce through sugar. The texture? Outside crispy, inside molten cheese lava. The taste? Somewhere between dessert and what if cheesecake was aggressive. Romans didn't believe in restraint with honey. These things were practically candied cannonballs. And while they weren't exactly street food for the masses, frying cheese in oil required resources, they did appear at more upscale gatherings. Imagine a toga party ending with guests groaning happily, their tunics stained with cheese grease, and bees hovering like tiny waiters. One bite could transport you to heaven or send you running to the nearest public fountain for a finger rinse. There was no in-between. So, yes, while we moderns have donuts, churros, and fried Oreos, the Romans had globuli. In a way, they beat us to the punch. Deep-frying dairy and covering it in sugar wasn't an innovation, it was a revival. You just had to survive the stickiness. Now you crave something more refined, less dripping, more dignified, maybe even elegant. Enter the Roman answer to gourmet dessert, dates stuffed with nuts. Known as dulcia domestica in recipes from Apicius, these little bundles were deceptively simple. Take fresh dates, sticky, brown, squishy, already halfway to jam. Remove the pits, cram them full of finely chopped almonds or walnuts, then drizzle them in honey, or roll them in it, or drown them entirely, depending on your social status and disregard for subtlety. At first glance, they look harmless, a rustic little sweet, the kind you'd hand your grandma. But beware, these things were dense, densely packed, densely flavored, and if left in the sun long enough, dense enough to cause dental trauma. Imagine nature's candy turned into polite edible masonry. They weren't just for nobles. The rich definitely flaunted them at feasts, but slaves and working citizens occasionally got dried dates too, especially during festivals when indulgence was briefly encouraged and consequences quietly ignored. The texture? Enthusiastic. The date provided chewy resistance, the nut added a crunchy surprise, and the honey acted as ancient Roman superglue. Eating one often required commitment and privacy. They stuck to your teeth, your hands, your toga, and occasionally your relationships if you took the last one. Nutrition-wise, solid. Dates were high in sugar and energy. Nuts gave protein. Honey made everything feel fancier. Romans claimed it aided digestion, but honestly, they were just thrilled to have something sweet that didn't come with bones. And as a bonus, these treats traveled well. Perfect gifts, apologies, or last-minute offerings. Soldiers carried them into battle. Lovers passed them like edible notes. And if things got rough, they doubled as throwable objects with just enough heft to make your point. In the empire that conquered the known world, this was its most beloved dessert. Sticky, satisfying, and potentially dangerous. Let's take a sharp turn into the slightly unhinged, because if there's one Roman snack that still raises eyebrows today, it's this one, stuffed dormice. Yes, small, fuzzy rodents with big eyes and an unfortunate tendency to end up on elite Roman dinner plates. Think of it as the original tension between awe and "ih." Now, to be fair, not everyone was eating glorified pet hamsters. This was primarily a rich people thing. Ordinary folks stuck with lentils and boiled onions, but if you were part of the Roman upper crust, the toga-wearing, poet-quoting, villa-owning kind, you absolutely served dormice to guests, not out of necessity, but because status. The dormice were fattened in little terracotta jars called